Hello, my fellow seekers. Welcome to Into the Work, therapy for empaths, seekers, and the intuitively driven, where you have front row seats to therapy sessions and expert interviews that will help you define the important work that you're here to do. So I guess you actually have something better than front row seats. You practically have a seat on my couch. That's right, you will have unrestricted access to actual sessions with real people, exploring real life issues. You will continue to be inspired by powerful conversations with experts and healers that might just share exactly what it is that you need to hear to get unstuck. I am Michelle Pauverman. I am a recovering people pleaser and former anxiety-driven empath, turned now mostly grounded psychotherapist and intuitive coach. I have been helping people for almost 20 years manage their limiting beliefs and anxiety to finally stop the self-sabotage and step into their gifts. I created this podcast, Into the Work, to give you a place to learn more about yourself and give you actionable strategies to finally move those roadblocks holding you back so you can go for what you want. Above all else, my hope is that this podcast is a catalyst for your awakening. If you're listening, you've already taken a step towards getting off of autopilot, and our next steps together will be taken episode by episode, waking you up to the possibilities, the new ways of thinking and being, so that you can stretch into that next level of your story. The spark has already been lit, and my friend, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's light a fire. Hi, and welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking about when healing actually hurts, why raising your vibration might be bringing you down, and what you can do about it. So what if all of this spiritual work you've been doing to feel lighter is actually making you feel heavier? Today's episode, we are going to explore spiritual ascension symptoms, what triggers them, how long they can last, and what to do to get through them. Because a lot of us don't realize when we dive into this work that we might actually start to not feel well. We think like the angels are going to start singing, we're going to be high vibe, we're going to feel amazing. And while that is true, while that outcome is possible, it's waiting for you. Sometimes it's on the other side of struggle. And so let's jump in and talk about what does ascension symptoms actually even mean, and how might this be happening for you? So first of all, ascension symptoms we see as physical, emotional, and energetic responses the body has when you're shedding old patterns, beliefs, when you are shifting your energy, your energetic body in ways that no longer align with your evolving self. So I know it sounds sort of like an oversimplification, but honestly, you are evolving and you are changing. And as you do so, the things that don't fit anymore for you, whether that be beliefs and old patterns, relationships, right? All these things, even physical disease, right? And I say dis-ease, but I do mean physical ailments, diagnoses that you have, high levels of pathogens in the body do not like higher vibrations. So when you start to evolve and change, and you do start to literally change your measurable vibration, we have reaction in the body. We have a reaction in our energy. We have a reaction emotionally. And it's quite like a detox. And no one tells you that when you're jumping up, you're signing up for that class. So you start your yoga journey and you start taking classes on, healing and getting to know yourself. You're starting some sort of spiritual journey that's really, excites you because you know that your soul is calling you to it. You know that it's going to bring out a part of you that is craving to be seen and to grow and to be fed. And yet on the other side of that, the beginning experiences anyways, it can many times look like a healing crisis. And we can feel things such as fatigue and restlessness, heightened emotions. Like, people who take Reiki classes with mine, they leave for a week and they're like, oh my God, I was more irritable this week than I have ever been in my life. And I'm doing this beautiful thing. I felt amazing when I left, like never before. Good. And then the next following 4 days, I felt grief or anger or anxiety because our body is actually detoxing. Sleep disturbances are very common. Strange dreams, really vivid dreams, are also very common when we are doing this kind of ascension, this kind of expansion in our life. Digestive issues or detox-like symptoms to do with digestion is also a thing. Feeling disconnected or confused because you're suddenly, and we'll get more into this, but you're suddenly in between stories. You are starting to disconnect from your lower level self, and you haven't yet become the higher level self with a life to match it, right? And so you're in between stories, and that can feel lonely and confusing and disconnected. And loss of interest in things that used to excite you is certainly a strange thing, a phenomenon. Now, this can happen on a couple levels. One, it could be that you're having a grief response, a depression response in the body, and you're just temporarily having a hard time getting up enough energy to enjoy something because you're just feeling down and out, right? I mean, sometimes detox symptoms can even feel flu-like, but if you are experiencing this, it's also possible that this thing that you used to quote unquote, get excited for might be something that really no longer, maybe it was a false kind of high. Maybe it was something that was actually erosive to you. Perhaps maybe it was a night out of drinking and you don't enjoy that anymore because you just don't. It brings down your vibe because in the moment it felt fun, but then for 3 days later it doesn't. And so, there are changes that are happening in how you're interacting with friends or what you're doing out in the world because the things that, used to vibrate high in your world now vibrate lower than you. And so you're just like, no, it actually doesn't feel good anymore. So what kind of spiritual work can trigger these, right? So let's talk about what kind of spiritual work might be causing this for you. Now, it really can be most things that are asking you to heal in some fashion, okay? So for instance, inner child work, trauma or healing or shadow work, meditation or energy healing practices that move a lot of energy, including learning new modalities or receiving attunements like in Reiki. Those most definitely can cause you to have some ascension symptoms. And homeopathy can as well. Even massage can actually cause you to have some sort of a healing crisis after. Actually, our muscles hold so much emotional energy. It really took me a few times before I really could call it a significant correlation between massage and rage. So I remember these times that I went and got a massage, and afterwards, I was expecting to be blissed out, and I was actually highly agitated and irritated, picking a fight with my husband. I mean, I was just in the worst mood. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And then I did a massage again, a couple months later, I did another massage, and I was like, I'm having that same experience where I am feeling anger or frustration or irritability, agitation, anxiety, things like that. Those are all very highly charged emotions that can really get kind of stuck in our muscles. So if you ask any massage therapist, they'll probably tell you. Acupuncture, reflexology, Reiki, cupping, anything that's doing work to help move things in the system. In fact, all of these types of modalities are covered under the word complementary alternative medicine, and it's referred to as CAM, C-A-M. And so many hospitals have CAM units. You might have heard of that, where they have Reiki specialists who go around and provide Reiki for patients. So there are a number of studies that have been done over the years to show us that people experience healing crises after. So homeopathy, a study in 2015, so this was actually a really long time ago. I'm sure actually There's some better ones out there right now, but this one that I had come across found that 26% of participants had worsening symptoms after starting treatment before they got significantly better. And the same was with reflexology. There was another study that showed that reflexology also, for people with fibromyalgia, in a very small group, it was a small group, but several of them had symptoms consistent to those of a healing crisis after the reflexology, and it took them a few days. And so this is something that goes on as well with acupuncture. Eventually, people start to feel better. And by better is usually better than before you started, right? So you've raised up your vibration, but first you go through the crisis. And so we look at anything that does rapid shifts in your mindset. Maybe you went and did a spiritual retreat, right? Or you're just really doing some really deep work in therapy. Practicing radical forgiveness and surrendering and letting go of an identity, ego that is, you're really working on shifting and changing. Even that in itself can cause you to start to have these ascension symptoms. Really anything where you're changing a vibrational environment. So think of it like leaving a toxic relationship or quitting a job that drained you, and you leave and you think, I should feel so much better. But as you're putting all this new positive stuff around you in your environment, you're doing these positive things, you're having this response like, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired, I have brain fog, I can't think straight, I don't feel well. And sometimes that really is just a vibrational change happening, and you need to sort it out in the body. So why it feels worse before it gets better? I really want you to consider that all this work you're doing, listening to this podcast, for instance, could start to shake things up within you. Then maybe you get done with this podcast episode and then you go get a book on it, right? Or you download something and you listen to it. And perhaps you start engaging with other people more and having more conversations about stuff like this. And then, you start vibrating a little higher as you start doing some of the work to bring in a higher vibration of thought and trying to heal limiting beliefs. And you're trying to do the deep work that's involved with change, anything where you're trying to change. And you're looking at this deep work, and all of a sudden you start having this detox experience. And I want you to realize that sometimes, quote unquote, toxins, emotional, mental, and energetic, rise to the surface before they leave. Your body has to process them. You're not getting worse, you're actually getting clearer. And now, on some level, it really matters what physical state you're in. If you have a physical illness, especially if you have one that involves pathogens in the body, for instance, bacteria, or any of those mystery illnesses as well, and Lyme, we have the spirochetes, we have a bacteria-like pathogen in the body. When you have things like that, they actually experience die-off. And so this is also known as a Herxheimer reaction, but it's all very similar. Your body is raising a vibration, and the things that are lower vibration don't do well, and they need out. That's very uncomfortable. And you may even be killing off some of this bacteria, let's say, in your body, and then your liver needs to handle that, and so you start to get tired. Or perhaps energetically, you're handling the toxins and you get tired, mentally or emotionally. Now remember, you are not getting worse, you are getting clear. And a lot of us don't realize this when we're getting into it, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm spending all this money and time and my resources on this spiritual quest that I'm going on, or this deep work that I want to do on myself. I'm feeling called to do, but why am I doing it if it's only going to make me feel bad? And so people who don't have this awareness that this might happen can start to feel turned off by the work, can start to feel like, well, I don't want to do this if it's going to make me feel bad. Because it is hard. Not everybody tells you that, but it's true. It can be difficult. And so we can get into this ego resistance and how the nervous system doesn't always feel safe in the idea of expansion and change. And so, couple your nervous system being like, you want me to do what? You want me to change my boundaries? You want me to change how I'm showing up in my relationships. You want me to expect more from people. You want me to matter more in my life. You want me to get quiet within myself more. You want me to go inward. And the ego's like, that doesn't feel safe. And then add to that this negative consequence of potentially having a little bit of a healing crisis, right? Having a little bit of an ascension symptoms. And that is a full-blown reason to be like, no, I'm all set. I'm done, right? And so not everybody makes it to the other side because they quit and they're just like, this is too much. And if you have, again, a physical illness or ailment, sometimes that worsens. It's almost like inflammation grows or things are happening in the body that vibrationally it responds in such a way of resistance to the vibration because it's a lower vibration thing and you're trying to raise your vibration. And so you have to sort of wait it out. Now, when your vibration shifts, things out of alignment begin to fall away. I would love for you to consider this as sort of a sacred shedding, that there are going to be changes that occur in your life as your vibration shifts, because it's always all about alignment. When it comes to energy, which we're all made of energy, the universe is energy, the chair you're sitting in is energy, everything is in its center and core energy in every cell of everything. And so if we are trying to change ourselves and expand and become bigger and better and right and more in tune and just more joy and more happiness, we have to shed some of this negativity. We have to shed some of the hard stuff. And sometimes, as we've talked about in this podcast before, sometimes that's also even relationships that hurt us, no longer serve us, or somehow just really do not resonate with us anymore. And so some people might be asking, okay, Michelle, this isn't sounding very fun, right? So you're telling me I could potentially have all these wacky things happen to me, or I might not feel good. And so many people ask me, well, like, how long am I going to feel this way, right? How long do these symptoms last? When will I feel better? And so I hate to say this because I hate being vague, but there's no one size fits all. There just is no answer that is a one size fits all. Factors include how deeply you're doing the work, how supported you are, your physical health. Like I said, if you have an illness that's going to be doubling down, if you have an illness that's actually going to be dying off, you're going to feel that. And how much resistance you personally are holding towards it. Because on some level, we all have sort of an archetypal saboteur inside us. And when we try to go do the big thing, we have our inner sabotage button get pushed. And so also part of the healing crisis can also be self-sabotage, which is strange, I know. Even myself, when I've committed to something new that's going to be super expansive and big, or honestly, it could even be a workout. It could even be a workout. And I'm so excited about it. I'm finally getting back. I'm going to get to this. It's going to be amazing. I'm committing. And I literally get sick. And there was a time in my life where this was happening on repeat. Yes, that does mean that I quit my workouts over and over again and then just kept restarting. And every time I did, sabotage would happen, right? Or, it's just really and honestly, we have to learn to ride the wave. If we give it all the power and we give up, right? If we just give up and say that's too hard, then we miss out on the really, really worthwhile good stuff. And I don't think anybody on the other side will tell you, I really wish I didn't do that. I don't think anybody on the other side of it, when they're actually feeling really good, their lives are more fulfilling. They are no longer in the in-between phase. They are feeling like, yes, it was worth it, right? They know that it was worth it. Everything that happened was a lesson inside of a lesson. And my guess is for you, if you resonate with any of this, if you're going through it at all, there are these lessons within the lessons, right? It's so deep. Because healing, it isn't linear. And there are going to be moments where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's better now. I feel better. And then you're going to dip again. And another layer is going to be exposed. And there's going to be another lesson in there that you thought you already learned, but hey, it's different. It's a different flavor of this lesson that you really needed to pick up on. And now, if you are not in the habit of looking for the lessons, and I know sometimes that can seem a little cavalier, it can seem a little, not belittling, but it can feel a little bit like somebody's not getting what a big deal this is, and you're going to tell me to look for the lessons. I want to punch you in the face when you're, really in it. But I'm still going to bring you back to it, because if you're not in the habit of looking for what did I need to learn here, what is so important, the truth is, sister, that you are going to repeat it. You're going to repeat it over and over again until you get it. It's going to show up in another relationship. It's going to show up in another job. And until you get the lesson, it's going to keep coming at you. And I would love to say that's not true for everybody, but I just really feel like it's true. And it's really important because it helps us get through ascension symptoms quicker. And I think it makes us more resilient in them when we're doing that kind of work, because we can help move things along better. And we can actually see that, yes, this is awful, but at least if it's going to be not feel well right now, or I'm feeling A, B, C, or D, at least there's some meaning to it. There's something that I'm recognizing that's important. And so I can move through this. Most of us are in our discomfort and we're not paying attention to why it's important that we're uncomfortable. And these ascension symptoms are literally there to make you uncomfortable. And how we respond to being uncomfortable is some of the most character building stuff we're going to face in our life. We talk about this we're talking about this a lot in my Modern Empaths Boundary Mastery. Right now, we're going through it. We're in our 6 weeks. We're 6 weeks in, and, the masks are off, and we are starting to really delve into the discomfort of things, looking at things, wanting to not look at things, wanting to avoid or look away, and sort of take our time. And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes we need to be in flow, and being in flow means, I'm going to take a day off from doing the spiritual work. I'm going to take a day off and just be at ease. And that in itself is beautiful spiritual work. Sometimes, we just need to be in flow with what feels right. But also sometimes we are avoiding, and we're putting up all our old tactical coping skills, right? Where we duck, we hide, we avoid, we think things are going to be too much. We create a lot of drama, right? Because we are big creators. And we were just talking about this today in the group, what incredible creators we are and how much we are truly creating in our lives. Everything we have every day is a creation. And when you look at how you're responding to your ascension symptoms, let's say, and what are you creating around them? Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have this. This is ridiculous. Oh, I'm scared. I'm afraid. Why is this happening to me? Or perhaps, you're creating a different story around it that's connected to an old wound, like I always get sick, or I always self-sabotage, or maybe there's something to this that you're creating and making it worse, and that'll keep you stuck longer, if that makes sense. And so really taking responsibility for what you're creating. Say, this is what it is, and I'm going to look for the lesson in it. And I'm going to listen to myself, and I'm going to try my best to be in flow with it versus be in resistance to it. I'm going to question, if I'm not feeling well, what would feel good? Right? That's a simple question. How often do you ask yourself that? What would feel good? And learning to nurture myself where I used to push, or learning to push where I used to avoid, right? Because sometimes there are people in the Boundary Mastery class that need to truly learn how to slow down and nurture and learn to feel safe in that. And the other people need to feel safe in pushing themselves, right? They need to feel safe in the fire. They need to feel safe in action. And so, there's all different ways that we show up. All right, so what can you do to move through it? We've mentioned a few things. We've mentioned really looking for the lessons and stepping into your resiliency that way, learning about this, looking at what am I creating around this? How can I actually show up and be different? How can I create something in response to feeling these Ascension symptoms that actually feel good? Like, hey, my body's asking me to slow down and nourish myself today. I'm going to do that. And that's not my MO, right? Maybe that person who says that to himself, that's what this lesson is about. Like, you can expand as soon as you're ready to take care of yourself. That's what the universe is saying. I'll let you expand, right? Your vibration of your body saying, sure, we'll expand. We'll get bigger and brighter and great. Yeah, that sounds great. When you can match it with the behaviors that it was required of you in order to be that person who you want to become, right? And so we'll look at grounding practices, walking in nature, eating grounding foods. If you're somebody who is on the go, totally stressed out, eating frozen foods, eating a lot of processed foods, feeling like they have no time for themselves, they're overspread, with taking care of everybody else, then my friend, you are going to be in Ascension symptoms longer. It's going to be harder to move through it because your body is saying, we can't put all these low vibrational things in while you're trying to expand and be higher vibration. So you're going to be at war. And so you're doing all the things to expand, but then you're doing the things to not expand. And so you have to get in alignment with, how do I be a normal human? Right? Not going to be perfectionistic here. It's not about that. But how do I do what feels good to me? Because sometimes, a piece of pizza might feel really good to you. And sometimes you're like, you know what? Like, I've been eating foods that aren't feeding me, that it's not nourishing me. It's things that are hurting me, causing inflammation. I'm doing things that aren't really in alignment with this whole expansion thing that I want for myself, right? And so we have to watch our alignment with things. Now, another thing for you to look at is slow down on your spiritual input. Sometimes we are there, and this again, I think, is a style of how we consume or a style of how we show up, and that feels safest to us is that we come in and we come in hot, right? Or like, I'm going to be all the things. So maybe if you start feeling Ascension symptoms, it's time for you to just take a step back. You can still look at the lessons. You can still meditate, hold space for yourself. You can still eat well and really try to be nourished by life, really try to slow down, do some breath work, but maybe not all the things all the time, all at once. Maybe you need to just kind of slow down and just have a fun night out with your friends and not think about it, right? Or maybe you need to just kind of move in and out of what's been normal for you and what's new for you as you work your way through a little slower. It really just depends on who you are. And honestly, having some nervous system support can be really helpful. Doing some tapping. I do EFT a lot. Like, learning to tap can shift your whole nervous system. EFT is, you probably have seen it before, where people are tapping in different areas of the body, starting with the head, moving down the face, and then moving into the lower body, the arms and the chest. And so you are tapping on places where the meridians are closest to the skin. So it's like a form of acupressure. And this is like a great way to move some of this energy out. It's actually incredible. You can actually you can feel all the feels that you're having. Go in, do some EFT all on your own, right? You can even watch a YouTube video, just doing it all on your own, tapping, 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 coming up with what you want to tap out, what you need to say, what you need to get out, and then what you want to refill yourself with, like affirmations, positive thinking. And it's incredible how you feel like a different person after. So there are things you can do to support yourself like that. Even journaling or doing some voice notes if you're that person who likes to, you prefer to just sort of like voice note. But just letting the emotions move through you in words and sound. Sound healing is also great, but it is an expansive thing. So some of these things that I'm saying, like sound healing and energy healing and things like that, those are wonderful and they do kind of help move things. But if you're feeling like you're going too fast, too hard, then maybe save that, take a couple weeks off, and then save that for a different time. I also just want to say to you to trust your process. You entered into this journey for a reason. And maybe no one told you that there would be discomfort. Or maybe you heard this before, but now that you're in it, you're like, yeah, but I feel alone, Michelle. I had to end some friendships. I had to shift things. I don't feel great in my body. Like a lot is changing and I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious. I want you to say to you to hang in there. This is temporary. And this discomfort that you're feeling truly is growth, not failure. Okay? It is growth, not failure. You may need some support though, because sometimes being alone in it is really hard. And so finding a therapist, finding energy workers, just a spiritual mentor, somebody who can hold space for you. It's really important to have space holders in our life, especially when we are space holders, because that even means more to us because likely for space holders, unfortunately, we tend to surround ourselves with people who are not space holders, which leaves us feeling unseen, not valued, and certainly not fed in the way that we want from our relationships. And so having a therapist or somebody to hold space while you sort of sort through what are the lessons here so I can keep moving faster through this, like what is it that I really need and who do I want to become? What is it that I am doing all this for? What is my why, right? What is your why? Why did you enter into this? Why was this important to you? Likely, on some level, you got to a point where you didn't like what you were seeing anymore. You didn't like how you were feeling. You didn't like what was going on around you. It didn't feel right anymore. And you wanted more. You had a calling or a feeling that you are here for something more and you want to figure that out. And you might not know yet exactly what that looks like. So I want to tell you that sometimes we get stuck in this part of the journey. And it is okay that you have been stuck if that is you. And that does not mean anything about your ability or willingness to turn it all around and to find yourself in a whole new place in time. And so hang in there and trust your process and really believe in yourself that your soul is shifting. You're not broken. Your soul is shifting. Your life is shifting. You know, you're from the inside out. Things are starting to quake. They're starting to change. This is part of the awakening. It's not a sign of failing. The breakdown, honestly, often is the gateway to the breakthrough. We have to be on our knees crying sometimes, having it to recognize something that needs to smack us in the face, right? So the breakdown is often the gateway to the breakthrough. So I want to invite you to share this episode with somebody if you feel like they're in it and they need to hear this. I would also love for you to leave a review. That would mean so much to me because it really helps this message get out there, this podcast get out there. It helps other people see it as something that they should probably check out and listen to. So I appreciate you. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will look forward to talking with you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Into the Work Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. Don't forget to grab your free gift, your Shadow Work Transformation Bundle at michellepoverman.com. I've included everything you need to get started to break through the patterns of self-sabotage and finally start to heal the parts of yourself that are getting in the way of truly reaching your potential. From a powerful meditation designed to help you meet and embrace your shadow self, to the guide that's full of curated prompts and important questions to support you on this journey. This really can be the work for you to unmask the root cause of all the issues you've been experiencing, honestly, and start to feel free to believe in yourself and go for what you want. The link for this free bundle is in the show notes. And if you like this episode, I would be so grateful if you could take a moment and rate, click and follow, and leave a review. Of course, you can always follow me on socials at Michelle Poverman. And keep in mind, as you embark on your journey from spark to brilliance, remember,
The universe is always conspiring in favor of your awakening. Everything that's happening is in support of you lighting your own fire within. So until we meet again, may your path be well lit and your heart be guided. Shine bright, seekers. Until next time.